Without farming, we won't be able to enjoy our favorite dishes. Why? Because produce such as fruits, vegetables, and meat won't be readily available. There might even be a shortage of them. Thanks to our hardworking farmers, we can easily buy all the ingredients we need and prepare food for ourselves and our family. To some, farming is a way of life, but to others, it may be a business which can bring in millions in profits. Although everyone needs food, the number of farmers around the world has been declining. In this video, we're going to talk about how much farmers are really earning. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new videos that we post. Let's talk about the history of farming first. Agriculture or farming is the production of fiber, food, animal feed, and other produce by means of growing and harvesting plants as well as animals. Farming is something practiced throughout the world. Several agricultural products are used in our daily lives. Farming can be thought of in the 5 F's, namely food, fabric, farming, flowers, forestry. Humans invented agriculture in the Fertile Crescent in the regions of Mesopotamia some 7,000 to 10,000 years ago. Food is vital to our lives. However, the proportion of people working in food production has rapidly declined through time. As countries develop and technology improvements have increased yields, there are now fewer people working in agriculture. Globally, there are 1 billion people working in the agricultural sector. This number is about 28% of the population employed in 2018. This number is down from 44% in 1991. However, there is a stark difference in agricultural employment between the rich and poor nations. For example, in Congo, 69% of employed people work in agriculture, whereas in the United States, only 1% of employed people work in the same sector. So why is the number of people working in farming rapidly declining? Does it have something to do with pay? How much a farmer earns is dependent on the type of farmer he is, how big his land is, and the product his farm produces. The majority of farmers make a modest amount, which only allows them to live a modest yet decent life regardless where in the world they live. There are different types of farms. A subsistence farm is a farm that produces only enough food to feed the family. There's little to no surplus left to sell. This type of farm is not meant to provide income, but this type of farm is becoming increasingly popular among people who wish to live off the grid. Commercial farms are the opposite of subsistence farms because they are meant to provide income for the family. It can consist of raising animals for meat, growing crops, raising fish, and raising eggs and dairy. A crop farm is a place that grows vegetables, fruits, or grain. Most large-scale farms are monocultural farms, or those that only grow a single type of crop at a time. This type of farm relies heavily on chemical inputs. Smaller crop farms are generally more diversified. A dairy farm is a farm that is focused on raising animals for milk. The milk can also be used for other dairy products such as cheese and yogurt. Most large dairy farms raise cows, but others may also raise goats and sheep. A fish farm is also referred to as a aquaculture and involves raising large quantities of fish in massive fish tanks. Although farm fish does not have a very good reputation, they can be clean and produce high-quality protein. A poultry farm mostly raises chicken and turkey for meat consumption. However, others may raise chicken or eggs. In the US, about 18% of poultry meat is exported. Although most poultry farms are large-scale farms, there is a growing demand for pastured, locally produced, and humanely raised poultry. Lastly, there's the meat farm. The meat farm exists solely to raise animals for consumption. It can be further divided into other categories such as cattle farms and pig farms. Now that we know the different kinds of farms, let's talk about the amount of money farmers make. The amount of money a farmer makes also varies depending on what he is raising. Is he raising cattle, poultry, vegetables, fruits, or a variety of agricultural products? We'll cover each type of farmer and the potential earnings that can be made for someone who looks at farming as more than a job instead of a business or an investment. Let's take a look at rural everyday farming. Rural farmers are folks who own a small ranch in the countryside. They often make between $20,000 to $36,000 every year. The amount isn't that much, but compared to other farmers, their expenses are lower, and much of the time they only spend money on little food and utilities because most of their food is from their own farm. Most rural farmers have a decent lifestyle, however, it doesn't provide much security when they become old and when working the farm becomes something that they can no longer do. Overall, it doesn't provide extra income to save, invest, or spend money on yearly vacations and the likes. Rural farmers usually use old farming techniques passed down from one generation to another, and they practice somewhat ethical living conditions for animals, but this produces lower yields. Although this isn't a bad thing because it benefits their quality of life, it hurts their income. Next, we have small-scale farmers. These farmers are those who operate only a small plot of land but treat it like a real business, not a way of life. There are only 4 small-scale farmers out of 100, and they are responsible for the production of extremely pricey herbs and vegetables such as alfalfa sprouts, ginger, turmeric root, parsley, basil, organic kale, and rosemary. Small-scale farms are not only environmentally friendly but can also be done on small plots of land. Farmers can easily make at least $100,000 a year with just a couple acres of land. Those who have the money to invest in an unserved market can easily make $1 million per year. However, it takes a lot of work to maintain. It requires organization, meticulous planning, as well as knowledge in supply chain logistics. You'll also need help in areas such as harvesting, packaging, and sales. Then we have large-scale industrial crop farmers. Large-scale industrial farmers are the big boys on the block who own tens of thousands of acres of land. They make up about 2 in 100 farmers because of the industry's sheer concentration. Because of the farm's massive size, they require advanced machines and technology, as well as plenty of fertilizers and chemicals. Advanced irrigation is also required to maintain the crops and for the owners to make a killing. Often, every acre will bring in about $700 per year, but after overhead expenses, the profit is only about $200 an acre. Although this may not sound like much, when expanded out, farm owners generally profit up to $200,000 a year guaranteed because they have insured in case crops fail. Large-scale industrial farms require a lot of knowledge about financial markets, as well as huge amounts of capital to get the land and equipment. There's also a lot of risk involved. More often than not, large multinational corporations who have billions of dollars lease the land from landowners for decades to use as farms. This sector of farming has a rather outsourced nature and has living conditions that are seldom spoken of. Outsourced labor, which is often needed during harvesting, often doesn't have good working conditions. Lastly, we have factory farmers. Factory farms are when almost all dairy, meat, and eggs are produced. These farms are notorious for their overstuffed and oftentimes unsanitary conditions. Animals often suffer in order for farmers to save on operating expenses. Although this kind of farm and farmers have been in the news lately because they are unethical, they can make a killing, literally and figuratively, because they have a stranglehold on the industry. They can easily hurt small farmers and even put them out of business. Factory farmers make up 4 out of every 100 of farmers, but they produce more than 99% of the meat, dairy, and eggs currently consumed in the United States. So what are the top agricultural producing countries in the world? China is the largest producing country in the world. We don't think that that's surprising, as it is one of the largest countries in the world. It has 75% arable land and must feed 22% of the world's population. Although the country struggled to feed its population in the 10th century, they have since upgraded farming policies and technologies. Today, 2 of the world's largest farms are located in China. Coming in at number 2 is the United States, which has become sort of a role model for various countries when it comes to the agricultural sector. Agriculture in the country expanded by 5% yearly after 1990. The country produces the highest amount of timber, but the major crops in the country are coffee, potatoes, sugarcane, sugar beets, and bananas. Next is Brazil, with more than 40% of the country's total land used for agriculture. The area occupied by farming is almost 867.4 million acres. India is at number 4 with 58% of the population engaged in some type of agricultural practice. 18% of the country's GDP is contributed by agriculture, and the country's agriculture production increased by 11% in the past 14 years. Russia, another gigantic country, rounds up the top 5 agricultural countries in the world. 16% of the employment opportunities in the country are generated by agriculture, and more than 23 million hectares of land in the country are cultivated. About 50% of the cultivated land area is covered in grains and produces 70% of the grains in the country. Which type of farming would you want to do if you were given the chance, and why? Let us know in the comment section because we want to know. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.